Welcome to this panel discussion on looking into crystal ball, new skills, new jobs, the future of technology, and are we too dependent on it? Joining me today are CP Gurnani, MD and CEO of Tech Mahindra, and Karan Bajwa, Vice President Asia Pacific Google Cloud. The participants couldn't have asked for a more qualified panel on this subject. Now, around the same time last year, CP, Karan, and I had the pleasure of connecting to discuss the success triangle: technology plus machines plus humans. Our discussion highlighted that the forces of change are affecting three major dimensions of work: the work itself, who does the work, and where the work is done. Now, this holds invariably true. The future of work is an outcome of the severe and unprecedented changes that are impacting work, workplace, and the workforce. Along with accelerated digitalization and automation, the change in workforce demographics and the types of employability is generating a colossal demand for new jobs, thereby generating a plethora of opportunities for talent development across industries. This year, we put the spotlight on new skills, new jobs. The future of technology, are we too dependent on it? Organizations are shifting back to the fundamental concept of skilling as a means of success. CP pointed out in our last discussion the only product we have is people, and to build a competitive advantage, we need to make our people more relevant. The rapidly changing demand for skills in the IT industry has increased the need for talent from across domains and with collaborative capabilities. We have also witnessed a complete change in the cultural idea of work. And Karan, you had pointed out that digital is not new, and that initially digital was a part of the strategy, and now it is the strategy, and it was important to foster an inclusive and resilient environment that makes it easy for employees to kind of navigate the uncharted waters and the uncertainty. Today, the demand for digital skills in India is 8 times of what is available and will rise to 20 times by 2024. Our discussion today is divided into three acts. The first act, the burning question, the future of technology, and are we too dependent on it? Our second act, disruption drives reinvention, killing in the new normal. And our final act, the impact of COVID-19 on women in tech. So let's get started with our burning question: the future of technology, and are we too dependent on it? Gartner defines a digital workplace as a business strategy that leverages an engaging and intuitive work environment to boost workforce digital dexterity. Now, the ambition and ability to apply technology ultimately to improve business outcomes. And according to McKinsey's 2019 report on Digital India, the productivity unlocked by the digital economy could create 60 to 65 million jobs by 2025. And core digital sectors could increase their GDP level from $355 billion to $435 billion. So the question for you both gentlemen is, can you share how business and humanity can benefit further from the adoption of technology? And what is this future of technology? And do you think that we are too dependent on it? Let me start with you, CP.
Nishchae, thank you, thank you. It's a brilliant forum, and I love this discussion and, in a way, reminding each other that every year is a new year, and we all, as technology leaders, are committing ourselves to not only a better technological experience but better humanization. Uh, to me, technology is now inevitable. It is part of us. It is the ultimate glue which binds all the vectors of the society. And the reality is the pandemic has only accelerated the adoption of technology. Now, so let's first take the benefits and what has not happened up till now. The benefits are very, very clear that better transparency, better communication, better availability of each other, and more important is a better reach. That the gap between what a student in US or a student in Bihar or a student in Odisha is being exposed to has dramatically reduced because now it is compute anytime, anywhere, and that also means that content is anytime, anywhere. The second particular advantage is that many of the problems that would have remained unsolved, whether it is the reach of the healthcare to the last mile, the reach of EdCast to the last mile. It's become very, very evident that today a onion seller or the grape seller or that achar maker can come to a digital marketplace and take advantage of a digital ecosystem only makes it convenient for people to work on it. Now, whether that is the ultimate usage of technology, no. I think there are many more use cases waiting for us to integrate them, citizen services, judicial services, you know, and when we start looking at the untapped part, I think McKinsey is right, the Gartner is right, that the number of jobs will go up, whether they go up to 65 million or 70 million, I think that is crystal ball gazing. But the reality is the technology skills are needed and a lot more would be needed if we start looking at the basic ingredient of technology, which is the product that it generates is tons and tons of data. Now that data has to be managed, whether you manage it on the cloud. And if there is data, then you also saying is that somebody has to make the best use of that data. Will we use AI? Will we be using other technological methods to filter out what is the right data, what is the right usage of that data? So in my opinion, you cannot have enough of technology, there is more needed. The second part is, if it is going to create 65 million jobs, which I believe is an underestimate, I think it will be a lot more. And India needs to invest a lot more in the right skills so that they are available at the right place. Number third, I think the biggest advantage of this pandemic is technology has also told us, like a Mohit Thukral in India goes and buys a company which does only BPO services and which has no office. All the work is being done from home. There is no office. And these are people who are working part-time. These are ladies who are working on, being a good mother, being a good citizen, and also bringing money to the table. These are men who would have otherwise had to travel and leave their families, now working from home. So I think let's appreciate what technology will provide. It will provide jobs, it will provide transparency, and it will also provide better decision making.
Thank you, CP. And in a way, I guess the pandemic has accelerated the arrival of the future of work to begin with. It's changed mindsets, it's changed behaviors, it's accelerated transformation. Karan, what's your take?
Thank you, Nishchae, and it's a pleasure to be back. I remember it was possibly about a year ago that we were on a similar forum, and we were virtual, we were remote, and I never imagined then that we'd be a year later in the same place, same situation. But I wish everyone's been well and safe in that sense. Your question about technology benefits of for humanity, etc. Future of technology, I won't do crystal gazing. That's a tough one. But to the point on are we too dependent on technology? I would say we are massively empowered by technology. CP gave some very, very interesting and real life examples, and I'll just kind of build on that. Look at what we've experienced over the last 1.5 years now. Uh, if you had ever asked any organization before the pandemic to say, try remote working, you would find 100 reasons for why it cannot be done. Try digitization of your processes, you'll find 100 reasons why it cannot be done. All those reasons got taken away overnight. Everything was possible. 100% of teams. CP runs a very, very large organization, hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know how many made to the offices these days. Everyone is remote. And how is that possible? Technology. Now, I do understand there are sectors where there is physical presence needed, and I'm mindful of that. But the value that technology has added in this time is unprecedented. So I actually call this phase of 12, 15, 18 months as amongst the most radical changes that technology has had an impact on people's lives than any time. There have been big moments in history when technology has been used, but never to the scale and mass that people have used technology. Let's talk a little bit about how technology has helped and how it has empowered people out of very extreme situations, improved productivity, offered employment opportunities. Let's go back to a little bit towards the demonetization phase of our country and how there was a massive surge of online payment applications coming into the country. The number of platforms that got created, the number of users. Now, I don't have the data offhand, but it runs into over 200 million users on a monthly basis who are using online payment applications. Different. This really took the country to a major stride towards a digital economy. It's not job done. We got a long way ahead. We now have a very strong platform of unified payment interfaces. It does in a way help the root reason of why demonetization was done in the first place. I won't go into the merits or demerits, but I think that's one aspect of it. Uh, there was a conversation on technology. I think this period and technology use has been a major democratizer for everyone getting access to technology, access to good education, my apologies, through the use of technology, even in the remotest of locations. Online classrooms, there are many platforms that are enabling students in far off places, whether you are in a city, in a remote location, basic digital devices. And we're not talking very heavy duty applications. We're not talking very, very expensive end user devices. We're talking basic mobile devices. It is happening. Our country, at last count, has over 500 million people using smartphones, approximately, give or take a bit. That's great. Now, what about the rest 700 million people? That is another challenge that we face. And I just sort of want to bring out something that we announced just yesterday, a very marquee partnership with Geo, where we will be doing a few things with them. One, of course, democratizing the use of technology to creating a low-cost mobile phone, building a custom operating system with Geo and enabling a low-cost mobile device, which really then lowers the barrier of adoption for people who cannot afford the devices today. And then it is about bringing capabilities with the use of cloud through the use of platforms like 5G. It's a fairly broad partnership that we are doing to address all of these issues of technology access, lowering the barrier of technology, and bringing devices to people at levels which are very, very affordable for them. Um, think about how skills have been imparted over this last few months, if you will, last year, if you will, through the use of online means. Training. One of the aspects of training was always about How do you bring large number of people? That has completely been taken away. Think about, CP brought a very interesting point about women and the BPO example he gave. Think about how we can really drive the upliftment of women who did not have access to these trainings, technology, training them in remote places, offering employment opportunities, and making them financially independent. Those things are happening as we speak. And again, things like financial management for the poor in villages, direct money transfer to the accounts is making an impact. I think that's another very interesting use of technology. And of course, the use of technology for businesses is a given. It has been very well established that businesses have become more productive with the use of technologies. Collaboration has significantly improved in the workforce, and people are really able to be focused on their core competencies in that sense across industries. So I think the uses, the benefits of technology for humanity, the benefits for businesses are very well established. This last period of 12 to 18 months has been a massive accelerator in the use of technology, and I would say that we've been massively empowered as a society with the use of technology.
Great points. Thank you, Karan. Clearly, make technology an ally, provide access um, at an affordable cost, very important for a country like ours. We've seen benefits across spheres of life, specifically in business, and there is a lot more that can be done to ensure that the power of technology can create a lot more business benefits and societal benefits as a whole. So that's the verdict from the two experts for the audience. And here's an important stat. The PwC Hopes and Fears 2021 report states that 50% of employees agree that technology can significantly improve their job prospects in future. And 90%, and this is interesting, are happy for employers to use technology to monitor their performance at work. So let's do a deep dive now into Act 2. And both CP and Karan did touch upon skilling, but we're going to now bring our focus and attention to what that means. Disruption drives reinvention and skilling in the new normal. And NASSCOM's Building a Future Ready Workforce report states that there is a shift in organizations' requirement from only technical capabilities to composite capabilities comprising of technical skills, professional skills, and domain knowledge. CP, in terms of future skilling of the workforce, what according to you are the composite skills needed to prepare us for the future of work?
Nishchae, in a lot of ways, it is probably the common answer to any CXO around the world. And the question would be, what keeps you awake? And the answer is most likely to be that skills and adaptability to the business environment and how talent would measure up to the requirements of their businesses, their customers, and the ever-changing landscape. Now, when we talk about the composite development or the requirements being met by somebody who is an expert in domain, an expert in technology, and also has leadership qualities or is willing to work literally on multi dimensions. I think it's a very interesting debate. The debate is, fast forward in life, how much of that work would be done by the men and how much would be done by the machine? I mean, if you look at the World Economic Forum reports, they don't talk about the jobs being created. They always talk about the jobs being destroyed. I mean, they always will give you a scenario that millions of jobs would be taken over by machines. While all reports, whether they are NASSCOM or WEF or the McKinsey reports or the PwC reports, are always talking about the new skills that are required to be relevant in the future. I, for one, as a business manager, can only tell you that uh, the new jobs market, yes, will be equally divided between the men and the machine. But what is still relevant is that a man will have to have that the same attributes that you looked for 20 years ago: hunger, adaptability, soft skills, learnability, critical thinking. So many of us, when we are trying to become technology oriented, are fundamentally not taking into account that industry has done the need for top 15 skills. And out of those top 15 skills, only two were technology. The balance 13 were the same creativity, resilience, emotional that we used to have in the. That was a consideration when Karan started his career, or me starting my career a little earlier than Karan. So, my request to all of us, who would be playing the roles of the coaches, is that let's not forget those 13 skills are going to be more critical than just the technology skills.
CP, is there somewhere a sense that those 13 will take care of themselves and there is a greater focus on the tech and emerging skills? Because there's, as you mentioned, right, it's the same set of skills that have been required of man and woman, just to make the point, to succeed in organizing.
Nishchae, the future of work is not the same. The change is happening, change will happen. I am not saying that we don't have to be prepared for the digital economy. I am not saying that the workforce will not be digital. I am, very, very convinced that the workforce of tomorrow will be an automated, digitized, and it will require all the relevant skills that will make us, uh, ready for the jobs. So, for example, when Karan talks about the cloud announcements or the, low cost handset announcement, or a much cheaper and easier to use operating system, I'm not denying that even if it is designed by the most creative guy in the world, he had to use a technology platform to design that handset. Even if I take into account its ease of use, but the human experience management was also done by technology. When we start talking about cloud, I mean, while the cloud may be one part of the equation, but the reality is that the underlying trend is all about data management and AI tools and the need for cybersecurity on cloud. I'm just trying to re-emphasize is that let's not overemphasize technology. Technology is being driven by humans, and humans will need those 10 to 12 skills to stay ahead. Otherwise, that job could easily be digitized or humanized. Cannot be humanized, but can be robotized.
Right. Great. And I think I'm agreeing with you. I'm just kind of alluding to the notion that there may be a miss and an overemphasis on tech and emerging skills without paying adequate emphasis and focus on emotional skills and resilience and empathy. So you're making a great point there. In fact, there's this report by PwC and NHRDN in 2021 that the accelerated adoption of digital technologies, in fact, it increased the skill divide. For example, virtual platforms, collaboration tools, digital technologies for contactless operations, mobile first platforms for business continuity and hybrid operations all led to a further divide in the skills that are needed. And digital skills like data-driven decision-making, analytics, human-centric skills like EI, resilience, empathy, and trust are all in fact gaining precedence. Coming to you, Karan, Microsoft joined hands with NASSCOM Future Skills to launch a nationwide initiative that aims to actually skill 1 million students in AI by 2021. And entry-level job openings constitute 68 to 70% of the total future skills jobs opening. Now, the talent in these roles are growing at an CAGR of 16 to 20%, while the demand is growing at a CAGR of 19 to 23%. So there is a clear mismatch in demand and supply. Question to you is, in your opinion, what more can organizations do to actually help the workforce of today and tomorrow to close this demand supply gap?
Nishchae, I feel strongly that organizations will fend for themselves. They have an imperative to bridge this gap, which is very commercial in nature. So I think organizations like the ones we work in, they will find a way to bridge the gap for themselves. The issue is larger than that. The issue is at a societal level, how do we upskill people? The jobs that will go away or the jobs that will get automated will start at the bottom of the pyramid in every sphere, be it a physical sphere or be it a information technology sphere. They'll typically start from the bottom of the pyramid, those repetitive jobs that will get taken away by automation. So I think it is a broader question at a societal level on what do we need to do to bridge this demand supply gap. The organizational aspect is a little narrow in my mind. Um, think about um, think about the let's talk about the IT industry within India. I think India has built an amazing powerhouse of IT, over $200 billion of IT services as of now, starting from 20 years ago from practically nothing. I think it's an amazing story. What is at the core of it? Skills. And yet that same industry today stands at the crossroads and needs a massive reskilling. Now, I'm not suggesting it overnight things would change. It'll take a long time for things to change, but we experience every single day that this industry is at the crossroads of reinvention or a need for reinvention, and that the need again is being driven by skills in a very different space, in a very different area. Industries like IT in India started with a very simple cost arbitrage model, slowly moved on to a skills arbitrage model, and eventually we'll have to graduate to a value arbitrage model. And for that value arbitrage model, the skills required will be very, very differentiated. So to create a massive bridge for this demands, this gap that you have in supply and demand, you almost need a gravitational force for skills. You can't push people to skills. You will have to create a gravity, a fundamental gravity, why people would get reskilled, whichever field they are in, whichever organization they are in, howsoever physical or manual their work is today. There has to be a gravitation. And there, I believe the role that the government plays is very massive. I'm not trivializing all the efforts through the skills missions that have been taken in our country, but a lot more needs to be done at a societal level versus just an organizational level in that sense. And again, I'm not taking away the pain at an organizational level as well, because I know it is not easy to reskill people. We live that every single day. Reskilling is actually a very, very difficult task. Taking people who have been successful at doing what they have been, and telling them you now need to change is a mountain of a job in that sense. And you first have to, get them to unlearn, because the repetitive nature of skills, makes it a habit. You got to get them to unlearn and then relearn at an organizational level. That will have to be imparted both at a functional level and a domain level. While innovation will drive technology changes, For large scale next generation industrial revolution, that will require a massive domain upliftment in that sense. So, my view, institutions, organizations, and societies will have to start spending significantly high on skills enablement. We've seen some organizations or some industries shift countries. You all know the examples of, you know, um, the center of gravity of the BPO industry was India many years ago. Is it still India? Debatable, right? So there has been a shift. So which means we've had to take our skills to a very different level. So we'll have to continue making massive investments on skills enablement, both tech and domain, as I said. At the same time, since your question was more organizational, I think organizational focus will have to be beyond just functional domain. It will have to be on things like execution excellence as well, because productivity is very key in today's time. Training on areas like Six Sigma, Agile, all of those capabilities are equally important for the organizational one. But I want to step back and really take this question more at a societal level, and we should all think about what are the big ways, what are the massive ways societies can reskill themselves. That's, I think, the moot point in my view.
Yeah, great point. Actually, Karan, I mean, the example that I shared, for training a million students in AI, it signals obviously that you're doing, it will create benefit not only for the organization itself, but for many others. And that will.
Nishchae, again, I'm sorry to come back in again on this. See, organizations will do these investments for their sake. They need capabilities. They need to build capabilities on scale. They will run these programs in many ways because they need that talent for themselves. But as I said, the problem is not organizational. The problem is societal.
Correct. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. Actually, we run a program with MIT and NESCOM called Future Skills Prime, which is a government initiative with a focus on emerging and tech skills and professional skills. And that was launched as a citizen skilling program in November 2020. So the government obviously has to do its part. The associations, the sector skill councils, academia, organizations all have to pull their weight if we are to drive a transformation at the grassroots level and across society. So agree with you, couldn't agree with you more. Now, it's interesting because this is another stat that I picked up from the India Skills Report 2021. Employability of India's youth has decreased to 45.9%, with the percentage of highest employable talent in the age group of 18 to 21 years old at 40%. This is significantly lower than last year's analysis of youth's employability in terms of overall employable youth. So to your point, obviously the magnitude of the problem and the opportunity equally exists because you have 18 to 21 and the demographic dividend that they enjoy, and equally so, their employability is reducing. Let's go straight to Act 3. And this is all about the impact of COVID-19 for women in tech. Now, according to McKinsey's Women in the Workplace Report 2020, senior level women are nearly twice as likely to be onlys. The only or one of the only women in the room at work, and they are 1.5 times more likely than senior level men to think about downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce because of COVID-19. Let me come to you. When we talk about women representation in the workplace, how can we improve participation in technology and leadership roles to ensure inclusivity now and in the future? And how has Tech Mahindra been an intentionally diverse and naturally inclusive organization?
So, Nishchae, digital gender divide or women in technology is a discussion that many of us have had all through our careers. And many people have come back and shared their perspective. A product company comes in and says, if there are no female developers, it becomes very male biased. And I've often laughed at that as a reason why this diversity needs to be balanced. To me, there are various other things that come to my mind. Today, Tech Mahindra has about 26% women representation. My board is over 30% women representation. To me, there is a much deeper societal issues that need to be addressed. The deep societal issues are very clear. If the woman is empowered, the nation is empowered. Uh, and clearly, both Karan and I represent technology industry. I think we both committed to empower women. And that will only happen when all of us recognize that there is an imbalance. That COVID-19 to some people was a devastating impact because of the pressures that it created both at workplace, at home. But I think it is a huge, huge opportunity. And the reason I call it as a huge opportunity is very simple because one is that commute times getting reduced. Number two is some of the common issues of the work-life balance that women leaders had. I think they can be a lot better addressed. I mean, it was like, uh, you know, last when I spoke to Karan, uh, he talked about the his commute has been from his study to the balcony and balcony to the study. Now, I think that is exactly the reason why it is the time when we can correct the gender diversity gaps. Uh, Clearly, uh, we all have to, in Tech Mahindra, we have taken a resolve. This 26%, we will now increase it to 30%. And the mathematically, it is a simple. When I hire, particularly when I hire youngsters, I will hire 50% which are females. So that's one way of addressing this issue. The second one, which is again a brilliant experimentation, that one of my leaders, I mean, he lives in the United States, but what he did was he's responsible for, he took Chennai, one of our largest centers, and he ran a program where it is called FAME, which is female as future leaders. And this program, he picked up 5 to 17 years experience and took them through the three-dimensional program. Number one is, what are societal issues? Counselors for it. Number two, what are the workplace issues? Because what we take for granted, the fact is that the male society can be very, very loud, right? I mean, so how do you teach the male members in a particular organization that please remember what an equal representation means? And the third is obviously training them for the leadership roles, because end of the day, they have to perform when they have to. And I think the Chennai experiment has been so successful that now it is becoming a Tech Mahindra experiment all over, which effectively means there will be more female leadership, more females in leadership positions. Similarly, one of the sectors, again, one of our bright leaders, again, uh, decided to experiment that one of the engineering services, that particular field, the leader would be woman and all employees would be women, 100%. We obviously had the customer support. It was a aerospace client. and the whole delivery leadership servicing that aerospace client in America is an all-woman team led by a young lady called Bhuwana. And this is literally what I call the right way to change the culture of the company. So very, very proud of my colleagues at Tech Mahindra. They have learned to take a few bold steps like Bhuwana and the women leadership team for the aerospace client, like a pledge taken that we will all grow the women in technology at Tech Mahindra from 26% to 30%.
Heartiest congratulations, CP. Number one, thanks for sharing those wonderful initiatives. And congratulations on being included in the Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index for the second year in a row. I believe you're one amongst the 7 Indian companies to be included in Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index. And it's interesting that you spoke about culture transformation. In fact, one of the new jobs that will emerge across industries is going to be the Chief Culture Officer. So that's one of the new jobs that will be seen a lot more in organizations. I'm going to come to you, Karan. Now, in a world where demographics are shifting rapidly with consumers having a plethora of choices, many companies have been expanding their DEI practices throughout the product design process to create better products for all users. What's been Google's strategy in this regard to empower inclusion?
Nishchae, I've been very, very fortunate to be working for a company like Google, where this is deeply embedded in the ethos of this organization. In fact, my learning about all these things about diversity, inclusion, actually come from two places. One, of course, my organization, and second, my home. Interestingly, my daughter runs a scorecard for me, telling me how am I doing on respecting difference of opinion. Well, it's relative to her, but she runs and teaches me every day about respecting difference of opinion. But coming back to organization, I think, as I said, I've
I
been.
thought you will give some credit to Simran also.
Well, daughters change you more than the wives do. So I give credit to both, but my daughter runs a scorecard for me on how I'm doing on that.
Are you doing
So
well on the score?
yeah, I am doing well, and that's what she says. And it's a 21-year journey with her. So she sees me. She saw me 20 years ago, and she sees me now. But so I'm not done, but I'm in a decent place in that sense. But coming to the organizational aspect, as I said, I'm very fortunate to be working for a company like Google and have worked for similar organizations in the past as well. In fact, somebody asked me when I just finished my 1 year at Google, somebody asked me, what is that one thing that strikes you the most about Google or you enjoy the most about Google? And I'm sure, people would have expected answers which are more business in nature or technology, engineering company, innovation. And yes, all of them. But I really feel that the one thing that stands out for me in this company is culture. This company is an amazing bed of multiple dimensions of culture that are so strongly held in the organization that is the way we live, work, and engage with each other. It is real every single day in our organization, and that's what I appreciate the most working in this organization. So it's really embedded in the core DNA of the organization. Your specific point about DEI, we first of all take DEI in a very broad aspect. There are very strong communities within Google. There are events on awareness, enablement. Those are foundational in nature. But a very large scale employee outreach is done to communities. Women at is one such forum. Black Plus is one such forum. Asian Plus is one such forum. There are many such strong communities which hold with each other, which stay together and learn from each other. In fact, we just finished celebrating the Pride Month at Google, and there were a host of engagements, activities that were done across the organization in that sense. An important aspect of setting the tone on these things is senior members of the leadership team are ambassadors, in fact, sponsors for most of these initiatives, all of these initiatives. it really starts from the tone at the top in that sense. Um, Having a strong community is not about people of similar types coming together. It is about having a very strong organizational and leadership sponsorship in that sense. We also, there are some very interesting aspects CP spoke about, how he looks at ratios, how the organization looks at ratios and other things. I think there are all of those things which I believe are very foundational in nature, ensuring that every aspect of diversity, gender, background, race, religion, are all embedded in the core of the hiring process. And there is conscious work, at a ratios level, even at senior management, because sometimes you have a strange pyramid in the organization. You measure diversity and you try to say, oh, yes, I've got these many percentage, but look at percentage cuts at every level of management. Is your senior management representative of that? And I think that's the big test for organizations. And again, it's not a one-time job. It's especially the tech industry relative to women. Many of us, leading organizations, have been painfully aware of the talent pipeline. CP spoke about a very interesting way to solve this problem at the induction for fresh candidates, where you sort of actually over anchor on ratios. In many cases, we've actually gone to an extreme of having 60+% women being hired at the entry level in that sense, because there's a talent pipeline issue for lateral hires. So continuing to work at those levels, it's about hiring, it's about retention, it's about bringing women back into the workforce. So all of these are very, very important capabilities and programs that we do on an ongoing basis. And also, it's being looked at every intersection with the employee. I think what I'm again to repeat, what I'm very proud of is the fact that Google has been recognized as one of the benchmarks when it comes to respecting diversity, inclusion, and empowerment. So
when you actually look at the product of a company, it tells you a lot about the organization, right? And
it does.
When you go into Google Assistant settings to pick a voice, each of the voices is not given a name or even a number, but a color. And the color of each voice has a distinct sound, speed, and personality representing the diversity of the world.
Yeah.
And speaking of stats, very similar to what CP shared, your representation of women in leadership roles globally at Google grew at 0.6 points, reaching 26.7%. So with that, congratulations to both of you on spearheading DEI initiatives and ensuring a more inclusive and naturally representative organization. I'm going to call this a wrap, just given that we are on the hour. Thank you both once again, Karan and CP. Hopefully next year, this time, we will be speaking in person. To everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nishchae. Thank you, Karan.
Thank you, CP. Take care. Stay safe.
Was that all right?